Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother cluck has got some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the video. And if you would like to support my baby chick of a channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that hype button, and check out my other videos while you're here. Okay, my nuggets. This is going to be one long clucking video. I may need to separate it into multiple videos, but we'll see how we go. I'll if they are going to be separated, they'll be released fairly quickly after each other, so you won't need to wait long at all. Now, I know that there is a lot of drama going on in the Amberverse at the moment, and I'm thinking that we might look at that in a live stream because as last time, it's all reading very performative to me, and I don't actually think it's real, or at least not real in the sense that, let me rephrase, I do think it's real, but I think its release is staged, and I think it's designed for basically boosting viewership after her break. So I had already been working on this video, and Salty Crab just released a 4-part series on Amberlynn's YouTube content cycle of futility. And this series was so spectacularly done that I was watching it and I'm like, you have just so perfectly outlined the what, everything that Amberlynn does, all of the behavioral stuff. She brought so many different examples to each point on this chart. And I thought, oh my gosh, I really desperately want to react to this and give the behavioral why behind her what. So because we're both in the same sphere and she has a much bigger channel than me, I've been watching her for quite a long time. And in fact, Salty Crab is probably the only reaction channel that I reliably watch now. So I sent her an email and I said, hey, I'm not looking for, clout or shout outs or anything like that, but would you be comfortable if I took clips of your videos and basically did the kind of the second half behind what's going on with this cycle? She responded really fast, which she seems so lovely, and gave her blessing that I react to these. Now, my reacting to reaction channels is not going to be a common thing. This is not a new thing that I'm doing. It's all a little bit meta for me in that way, but I felt like she did such an incredible foundational work on this cycle that I don't feel like I could have done it better myself. This, I tell you what, Salty must have an exquisite memory to be able to put all of these things together, or maybe her research skills are just off this planet. But if you haven't seen those videos, I'll link them below. I do encourage that you watch them before you watch mine, because mine are like this unofficial sequel to this series. I'm not going to be showing all of her content in these videos. I'm just taking basically enough to prove my point about what's being said. I don't want to steal her essence or anything like that. So a lot of it is going to be untouched and left on her channel. And I'm so sorry, but the boys have decided to start doing a crowing party, so you'll probably hear that in the background too. I cannot help it. This is what my boys do. Also, if you're here listening before November 13th on 2025, it is nearly my first Chukin birthday on the channel, and I'm really excited about it. So in celebration, I want to do a kind of Q&A AMA thing. If you go to my post tab, there is the very first post that you'll see will be where you need to ask the questions if you want to participate. And then I'm thinking maybe a video or a live. I haven't decided yet, so head on over there if you want to take part. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so if you've spent some time in the Amberverse, you're probably very familiar with this cycle. Now, this cycle was put to paper quite a few years ago. I am not sure who originally created it. And you'll see a couple of the little points on there are a little bit outdated. Like, for example, it talks about certain conditions that YouTube doesn't like me talking about, where now she's talking about borderline personality disorder rather than those other type of conditions, and a couple of other little bits and pieces as well. But the greater point of it proves true over and over and over again. And it seems like Amberlynn is repeatedly doomed to fulfill this cycle. Now, I didn't want to just do an analysis video of Amberlynn. I wanted to make this a little bit interactive, my nuggets. So humor me if you will. Now, if none of what I say in this video resonates with you, then first and foremost, I want to say congratulations. You've really worked out how to adult, and I'm really, really happy for you that that's the place that you've managed to get yourself into. But I do encourage those people to be very mindful about what's being put in the comments, because I guarantee you that probably most, I would say most of my nuggets have done this cycle at some point or are currently doing it now. So let's all be kind to everybody, acknowledging that we're all going to be at different places in our journey. So what I would like you to do is maybe not just think of yourself, but potentially if you can't think of something for yourself, I'm sure you've probably seen it in somebody that is in your life. So Amber's version of this cycle is, of course, around her weight loss, right? And her YouTube channel features a lot in it because it's all documented. I myself have absolutely done this cycle over and over and over and over, which was basically surrounding, you know, my upbringing that I'd had, what my mother had instilled in me, and an absolute fear to basically move forward and try anything at all, like anything at all. Fear was instilled in every part of my life. What else this cycle can look like? Anything that you've wanted to change or achieve, learning a new skill, a health and fitness goal, breaking a bad habit like smoking, a bad relationship cycle, getting organized, getting on top of financial debt. But if you've ever thought, why can't I just ... fill in the blank, this video is absolutely for you. So have you got it? Are you thinking of a thing? So I want you to keep this thing in your mind as we go through. And this is not about feeling sorry for Amberlynn. That is absolutely not the context that I'm taking this video. What this video is about is basically how to not be Amberlynn in essence. Okay, now because I can't leave well enough alone, I am relabeling all of these phases, because the phases were originally labeled very much from an outside party looking in at Amberlynn. And so it's all from a very physical, outside perspective, behavioral kind of take. Whereas what I'm trying to do is go inside the workings of Amberlynn and look outward. So phase one, welcome to the spring of Amberlynn, the illusion of progress, performing change. Everything's blooming, we're planting seeds, there's hope and renewal and fresh starts, and this time will be different.
Rehashing / retrying old weight loss approaches that did not work before. Let's take a look at some examples of that. We're going to start off with all the times that she decided to do Weight Watchers.
What diets have you been on? I have done Weight Watchers.
Good old Weight Watchers. I joined Weight Watchers. I'm doing Weight Watchers again. Weight Watchers is the way to go. I have re-signed up for Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is going to be doing Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers. Yesterday was day one on Weight Watchers. Day one, I'm back on Weight Watchers. So tomorrow actually is going to be day one that I do Weight Watchers. Today is day one of Weight Watchers. I feel like every time I go into Weight Watchers, I never actually follow it the way that I'm supposed to.
Okay, so I basically cut down a whole lot of examples, and this was more to example all of the research that Salty Crab put into these videos. I'm not going to show you every example of every point moving forward, but you can expect like a good 10 to 20 examples on each point in her videos. And it really showcases how cyclic, because you can see all of these videos are from very different aspects of her life and on different timelines of her life. And I'm just trying to create the foundation that this is highly cyclic for Amberlynn. But of course, Amberlynn's not just about Weight Watchers, so let's continue.
And I will be counting calories. Yes, I'm counting calories again. I'm gonna start counting calories. So I have been counting calories. Becky and I are counting calories.
I'm doing a thing where it's 100 days of counting calories. I'm also counting calories, but I'm gonna be doing 2,000 calories of any food that I want. So what I've been doing is counting calories.
So I will be counting calories.
So I think this is where people kind of go, oh, this is Amberlynn's cycle. I am different to this. This is bordering on the ridiculous, and considering that Amberlynn has at least been doing this for her, 12 years or something on the internet, this is a really prolonged cycle.
Amberlynn also will show things like her freshly washed hair, talking about just getting out of the shower. She does somewhat regular weigh-ins, and she claims that she's got a new attitude, a new mindset. This time is the time that's gonna work for her.
So if you think about these things, like we're doing freshly washed hair, we're doing regular weigh-ins, we're feeling motivated and have a new attitude and mindset, these are all things that are like mini actions that someone can feel good about doing in preparation to meet their goal, right? And this is really, really important. This is a really, really important part of this step and the psychology behind this phase. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. In fact, I think I've said it in a whole lot of Amberlynn videos. One of Amberlynn's greatest flaws is that she always does and acts and fulfills whatever she's feeling, whatever her brain is telling her in that moment, that's how she's going to act. So if she's feeling angry, she's going to lash out. If she's feeling sad, she's going to play victim on the internet. If she's feeling lethargic, she's just going to sit there. Everything is always about what she's feeling in that moment. And we're going to cycle back to this again and again and again, because this is a huge, huge issue for phase 1.
I'm very happy with where I'm at right now and how well I'm doing, and I hope more than anything my mind frame stays like this, because it feels great to be back on track again.
So you see, she's talking about how she's feeling, and once again, there were heaps of examples in Salty's video of this. If you take away one point from my video for phase 1, the absolute most important message is motivation is a fickle mistress. Motivation, I'm going to go into the science behind it too, and what's actually happening in the brain in my breakdown. But motivation is essentially a feeling. It's like weather. It comes and it goes. It can't be relied upon. It definitely shouldn't be waited on. And its absence should not be used as an excuse to stop doing what you're trying to achieve. Because it's one of those fallacies. I think when I learned this, because I used to be somebody that also relied on motivation, when I learned this particular lesson in my life, a whole bunch of doors started opening up. Once you start acting without the push of the feeling of motivation, you kind of just learn to appreciate when it's there. Because sometimes, I go in and I do my workout and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to absolutely smash it. I'm going to break a huge sweat. I'm going to burn, 600 calories in my hour and it's going to be great. But then most of the days it's like I'm tired and I'm sore and I don't feel like exercising, but I'm going to go do it anyway. And you do things anyway, right? But the funniest thing about motivation, if you like the feeling of doing things while motivated, the most consistent thing that will create that sensation of motivation is to actually do action. So a lot of people think you need to wait for the motivation to hit and then you do action. But in actual fact, it's the opposite way around. You act first, motivation follows. Hopefully that helped someone. It would have helped me like 10 years ago, let me tell you. So if you want some more examples of what I'm talking about, here's some more clips.
So excited, you guys. I haven't been this pumped and this amped, this excited and anxious in a very long time. Like right in this moment, I feel extremely motivated and just excited for just weight loss. I'm super excited to weigh myself and to see myself lose weight.
I don't know, I like the way I've been feeling lately. Very motivated to lose weight. Yeah, I do feel like there's a new me moment going on. Like, I just feel like my mindset is so different. Like, I'm happier. I feel just like super motivated, determined, inspired. Let's do this thing. I have goals I want to reach. There's just things I want to do in life, and I cannot do those things unless I lose weight. Not only is my mental health right now at the peak that it's been in a very long time. I feel happy. I feel hopeful. I feel motivated. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna get my shit together. Like, I need to get my shit together.
So you notice that I feel happy, I feel hopeful, I feel motivated. It's all I feel, I feel, I feel. And this is completely backwards to how a healthy set of actions would go. Once again, I'm going to break this down. Don't worry. Bear with me.
Another thing that you'll notice when we're in phase 1 is that she will make a lot of new purchases. Like it says here, that could be water bottles, Fitbits, books. That also could be weight loss plan branded food or protein bars, salad kits, and other food that she thinks is quote unquote healthy.
So all of these things have something in common, you know, the feeling motivated, the planning, the buying water bottles, the exercise equipment, planning out the meal prep and doing the meal prep. All of this is dopamine, 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 dopamine. And it's just like pushing that button over and over and over. And if you've watched my Eugenia content, there is I've forgotten what chapter it is, but it's holes versus hate, the holes versus hate video. And I discussed that in that as well, because shopping in particular can be a very insidious way of getting a dopamine hit, because not only do you get the dopamine hit when you first order it, you also get it again when it arrives and you get to unpack it. And this can be a really dangerous kind of trap to get in. And you can see there's just example after example after example of Amberlynn hitting that dopamine button.
So I want to do like a haul. About a week ago, I went to the store and I bought a bunch of stuff to kind of get me ready for this new year, okay? And this is an exciting haul for me. I'm super excited to share these things with you. So another thing I got in case I want to meal prep, I am very weird when it comes to like plastic containers. So I got this whole thing of glass containers. So if I want to meal prep or I want to, you know, make a meal for later on, okay, that is meal prepping. Or if I make too much of something and I don't have enough calories, or I'm full, etc., and I want to save it for later, what I'm going to do is obviously measure everything, put it in the containers, and again, with the sticky notes, write the date, how many calories, what it is, etc. I want to start making smoothies with fruits, but I want to incorporate some spinach and maybe a little bit of different other vegetables. So I got the Nutri Ninja. I feel like every morning starting my day off with a smoothie is going to be a good thing for me, because I've noticed in the past when I have done that in the past, I feel a lot more energized having fruit in the morning instead of having something that's like heavier on the stomach. So the last thing I got, which I am the most excited about, is I got a Fitbit Ulta.
So we've got the Fitbits, we've got the glass containers, we've got the sticky notes, we've got all of this planning, and it's so exciting, and she feels so excited. And we just have really good examples there of dopamine after dopamine in this single clip. And what's going on in her head is that she knows intellectually that she has been on this cycle multiple times throughout her life already to this point. And so she's trying to rationalize and kind of do something different, but without actually doing anything different, because different is uncomfortable and we don't want to be uncomfortable. We want to do things that make us feel comfortable. So what she's doing is, oh, okay, so last time I didn't meal prep properly because I didn't like the plastic containers. So what if this time I get glass containers, because that way I won't need to feel weird about the plastic, and then I will actually meal prep, and then I will actually control my calories properly. But this is kind of what I mean if you've heard me talk about, there is a false sense of progress when you get caught in this planning stage. And Amberlynn is a big sucker for getting caught in the planning stage. She loves it. And why does she love it? Because planning is a dopamine hit. It feels good, and she loves that feeling. Who wouldn't? Of course, it feels nice to have dopamine flowing through your system. But what is lacking is in the excess of planning. And I'm not at all saying that planning is a bad thing. Planning is part of it to a point. But when you're spending all of your time and effort in the planning and not in the doing, that's where you start entering into problematic territory. And outside of a handful of like larger scenarios, like, I don't know, building a house or having a holiday or whatever, if we're just talking about getting out of debt or getting into a fitness routine or, you know, anything like that, really a day of planning is fine. You don't need to be going past that. You should have an idea of everything that you need to do within that day and then begin executing it. So here are some more examples of this cyclic nature. Again, I'm not going to do this for every single one, but you get the point of what I'm trying to make here.
I have a new Fitbit, which I'm super excited. I have the Charge. I do have a new Fitbit. I got some Weight Watchers snacks.
Crystal and I are gonna do this 100 days of weight loss.
So every time there's something different, every time that is going to be the key to success. That is what's going to make this time different than the last times. That new fad thing or this new idea, but all it is actually all doing the same thing. And that is just all planning with no action behind it.
She also will make attempts at physical exercise. And a big one for her is the meal prep and planning. She loves the planning part of any new weight loss journey that she's about to start.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Salty. That is perfection. So, you know, if you've listened to particularly my candy videos, I am a big supporter of meal prepping. I love it because personally, as someone that suffered with conditions on both ends of the spectrum, I find it valuable to not have to think about food and to just know that things are nutritionally balanced and I'm going to get what I need out of it. And I personally find, not saying that this is the same for everyone, but if I start thinking about food, that's when I start to run off the track. If you get what I mean, because you start thinking about it and then you're like, oh, maybe I want this or maybe I want that. But if it's kind of just fuel for me, it's a lot better. Not to mention, it is so much cheaper, painfully cheap. And if you do check out my candy videos, I actually go into a breakdown of finances of that, and you wouldn't believe how cheap it can actually get.
So right now I'm just going to do a tiny bit of meal prep. It's like super simple meal prep. I'm gonna measure. I'm gonna weigh some carrots and put them in baggies just so they're ready for our nightly snack. And then I'm also gonna do the almonds for like our breakfast just so they're already ready and measured. So I'm about to make me some dinner. I'm just gonna have pasta and I'm gonna make this into 5 meals. And I'm gonna be putting them in my little meal prep food storage containers. I have been trying to find these forever and Walmart finally had them. Thank the Lord. Okay, so here are the 5 planned out meals.
And so, of course, these are the right things. We're seeing her actually meal prepping, and that is definitely part of what she would need to do to get onto a healthy path. But doing the meal prepping once is still like being in the planning stage. It really needs to be this continual habit that's done over time. Like, I've been meal prepping now for like 13 years. And it just kind of becomes part of your life. And so a day every few weeks is set aside to do, you know, the really big bulk cooking. And then you don't really have to cook for the next couple of weeks. It's really convenient, a lot more convenient than fast food and a lot cheaper than fast food. But we don't see Amberlynn sticking to these things or actually making them habit. I don't even know. I guess I will know as I move through her chapters, but I'm not even sure how many iterations of the bulk cooking she does. And if anyone knows, let me know, because I don't think I definitely haven't seen any bulk meal prep since I've been a reaction channel. So I'm imagining she probably does 1, maybe 2 of these and then it fizzles off.
And the final thing on this list that's part of phase 1 is she will act as if her channel is indeed a weight loss channel. She'll make videos saying exercise with me, cook with me, shop with me, and everything is centered around whatever weight loss plan she's doing. She wants to let you in on whatever plan she's doing. She's letting you know what her weight is, telling you what she ate that day. Her content is basically centered around trying to lose weight.
And that is just a direct byproduct of, because that's essentially her goal. That's always her goal, right? Whenever she starts in phase one, it is to lose weight because that's her largest barrier in life. Okay, so I think you're starting to see why I'm calling this the illusion of progress. So let's start breaking down some of the psychology behind this. So motivation as the foundation of this phase is a massive red flag. As I've already talked about, it's a very, very fickle emotion and shouldn't be relied on. And it's kind of like, have you ever heard people say, my goal in life is to be happy? But to be happy or to aim to be happy is a complete fallacy because happiness is an emotion. We don't feel the same emotion all the time. It's setting yourself up for failure to try to aim for that when the human brain and the human psychology is just not meant to stay in that one state forever. And it's the same with motivation. And I get such a feeling from Amberlynn that when she's in phase one, she thinks this motivation is going to be forever. If she can just hold on to it, if she can just be proactive enough and plan enough and buy enough new things, she can hold on to it forever. So what she's doing essentially is building literally everything, all of her hopes and goals on motivation. And it is possibly the most unstable foundation possible. Because when you build on motivation, the collapse is inevitable. And I'm going to break down the science of this. But what this is like, and I'm sure that you've all felt motivated at some point and you've all gotten overexcited and, but you can kind of simulate this because have you ever gone to like a show, like a Cirque du Soleil show or a concert, or have you ever watched sports or, anything like that? And you felt this surge of motivation, like, wouldn't it be cool if you could do that too? And then you start daydreaming about it and imagining yourself doing these amazing things. And then your brain is like, want. And that's when the dopamine kicks in for the motivation, which is then supposed to, cause you to actually go do something about it. But what Amber is doing is she's essentially performing weight loss. She's not doing weight loss. She's planning for it. She's saying all the right things. She's doing all the right things, but not actually doing it. The halls, the meal prep show, the equipment, it's all just theater for this setup that she's sure is going to work every time. And like I say, this is all of us, right? So how many, and you don't have to own up to this publicly, just keep a little, thing in your mind. You're thinking about the topic that you were thinking about at the top of this video. How many of you have bought the workout clothes before actually working out? How many of you have made elaborate plans that feel like progress, that make you feel like you're doing something towards it? How many of you have announced your goals publicly before doing the actions? And how many of you have believed this time is different because it totally felt different? It's different this time, and then it wasn't different. How many of you have confused planning with doing? And how many of you have waited for motivation instead of building discipline? So all of a sudden it starts to pull away from the ridiculous that is Amberlynn and starts to be like, oh yeah, this is human. This is what we do before we learn what to do. It's totally normal. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And as we go through, I'm going to highlight how to actually break this as well. So the reality of the psychology of what's actually happening with the things that I just listed is the shopping spree of the workout clothes before actually working out is just a dopamine hit where buying things feels like action. It feels like a step towards the working out, but it's not actually, because you could just work out in your living room in a t-shirt and it would be fine. Using planning as procrastination makes it feel productive without the risk. And that's what I was highlighting with Amber, where she wants to feel comfortable all the time, But the important thing when you're trying to make big changes like this is to absolutely feel uncomfortable. You want to be uncomfortable. And the sensation of this time is totally different. It's an emotional intensity mistaken for actual transformation. I feel different means I am different. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. You're only different when you actually do the actions behind it. Gathering tools instead of building skills is just another dopamine hit, making it feel like there's action when there isn't. So what's actually happening on a brain mechanism level? Why do we do this? Why do so many of us get stuck in this cycle and trick ourselves into thinking that there is actually progress where there is not progress? Even if you don't complete this entire cycle that Amber completes, if you're still resonating with this kind of planning stage, I know I did it. I know people that are currently doing it. And it's really, really important if you want to better your life, which you should and you deserve to better your life, that you understand what's happening here. So dopamine is one of the feel-good hormones. It's a chemical in our brain that is in essence about anticipation and seeking. Now, for all of my biochemical nerds in the audience, I just want to highlight that, yes, I acknowledge that this is not all dopamine does. Dopamine is a very complex chemical in our brain and does a lot of different jobs. But for this context and to break it down and not overwhelm with the science of it all, I just want to focus on dopamine's role in this phase. So dopamine, in essence, is creating that feeling of motivation. It's that high that makes us want to feel like we're doing something. It drives the hunt, not the actual having. It kind of creates this urge to pursue rewards. So it's not actually the feel-good hormone that we get when we achieve the rewards. It's the one that kind of makes us all excited to actually do something. And it feels nice. It does feel nice to be in that mode. And that's why phase 1 for Amber is just an escalating dopamine trap. What she's doing is she's pushing that button over and over and over. So she keeps feeling that high and she keeps feeling good and she keeps feeling all of that amazing stuff. But here's the trick. Dopamine perpetuates the wanting. Remember, it's about the hunt. It's about the pursuit. It doesn't satisfy it. So what the cycle becomes is you feel the urge to change, which is uncomfortable because, like, for example, in Amber's situation, it's that she's feeling overweight and she's feeling unhealthy. In my case, when I was battling the fear of doing things, I was feeling bored. I was feeling like a useless human being, and that was uncomfortable. And whatever your thing is, it would have started with this idea of, I don't like this. And so I want to change it. So then you get a dopamine hit from planning or buying, but that's only temporary relief. So then when you do that, you get another dopamine hit, which creates more urge to seek. So there's a brief feeling of progress, but that doesn't actually address the original problem, right? So for example, wanting to lose weight, buy the workout clothes, which feels like planning and progress, but that doesn't address the original problem of the weight. And so then you get another dopamine hit to urge to seek for more. Do you see how this keeps going? And so then you need another hit to relieve the new urge. And basically you repeat this until the dopamine system exhausts itself, and it will exhaust itself because it's actually an important part of the progress of fulfilling the need. Our brains do this automatically. And this is exactly the same mechanism, by the way, as things that we see in like playing slot machines, gambling. It's all around that perpetual button mashing of dopamine. Doom scrolling is exactly the same. Shopping repeatedly is exactly the same. So we can actually simulate this in many different ways, as well as, unfortunately, some illicit substances will also do a similar thing, that we kind of get hooked on that feeling of the dopamine hit. So what will happen then is your brain will actually start to reduce the sensitivity of the dopamine receptors. So dopamine's only job is supposed to be getting you started. And if you're never actually getting started, you burn out essentially the dopamine feeling, which is why we then get phase 2, which we will go into very, very shortly. So I have a grand secret to preventing all of this horrible dopamine crash and horrible not succeeding in any of your goals. Would you like to know what it is, my nuggets? Are you ready for this? This is some solid wisdom coming at you. Get a pen and paper if you need to. Just do the clucking thing. Just do it. Oh no, that's a, I'm going to get copyright struck. No, seriously, do the thing. Stop thinking about it. Stop planning about it. Stop procrastinating. Stop thinking that there's something else that will make it successful this time. Do the thing. You know what to do. If you don't know what to do, then go seek assistance. So for example, if you're trying to get out of debt, but you're not quite sure how to build a budget, well, there's professionals that can help you do that. If you're trying to navigate a cyclic bad romance pattern, there's professionals that can help you achieve that. If you don't know how to lose weight, there's professionals that can help you do that. So once you know what to do the clucking thing. I'm sorry. This is like the basis of my entire life now. I do the clucking thing. Does this need to go on a t-shirt, my nuggets? I feel like, yeah. So what a healthy dopamine cycle should look like is the need is identified. So for example, I'm hungry. Then you experience the dopamine surge, which gets you moving towards the goal. So it gets you getting the food. It makes you think about what food you might like, and it feels good to go get it. And the brain is just going, yes, we do the thing, we do the thing. Then comes the action. You actually do the thing, do the clucking thing, doing the action that directly affects the original need. And then you get the reward satisfaction. So you've got the thing, you've got the food, you get the different chemicals released, which is like serotonin or endorphins, things like that, which are the actual feel-good hormones that we want. You get genuine satisfaction, and dopamine drops because the need is met. It's been satisfied. We don't need the motivation anymore to do the need because the need has been done. And then the system resets until another thing is needed. So essentially what this is, dopamine is supposed to be short-term only. It's not supposed to be ridden long-term, which is actually why conditions like Parkinson's can be so devastating, because it actually directly drains the dopamine reserves and you constantly sit below a baseline, which is not good for the brain chemistry setup. So just some real life examples just to drive this home where this can happen. So like modern life has created an infinite seeking situation, an infinite seeking setup for these triggers. So like social media, for example, the dopamine happens where it's like check for notifications. So it wants you to check for the notifications. You check, sometimes reward, sometimes not. Now that's incomplete. A variable reward like social media, for example, actually creates one of the strongest dopamine traps that you can fall into, because the need is never really satisfied. And so you keep checking and keep checking dopamine, 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 dopamine. And that's why it can actually be so devastating for our psyche. Shopping trips, for example, which is absolutely one of Amber's traps, where dopamine is saying, buy the thing, it will solve the problem. It will absolutely not solve the problem, but this is what your brain is saying. And so you buy it and there's a small satisfaction, but the problem is not actually solved. So now it's labeled incomplete. So now we need to buy more things. And so, you can see how that cycles. And even junk food can be a dopamine trap, because the need is identified as I'm hungry, which is a very valid need to have. So the dopamine is saying, order the thing, eat the thing. And then when you get it, it's a brief pleasure, but because it's poor quality food, it doesn't actually nourish. And it can create even more cravings. Like, for example, if you've had a lot of salty food and then you crave something sweet, or vice versa, and then that is labeled incomplete and the cycle continues. And the problem at that point is your brain then starts to learn that the performance of change, or the performance of filling the need, actually equals relief, when in actual fact, all you're doing is draining your dopamine system or becoming desensitized to it. And the next video is really going to cover why that's a problem. But this is why just do the clucking thing is so important, because the illusion of progress dies the moment you stop performing and just do the actual work. It's boring, it's quiet, it's unglamorous, and for Amber, not very good content. But if you're actually seeking change, you just do it anyway. If you've been on the cycle for a little while, your brain is going to be screaming at you, but I need to plan, I need to feel ready, I need the right equipment. But you don't have to listen to everything your brain says. Your brain is sometimes a giant idiot or a little chaos demon in the background trying to distract you. Sometimes brain's just brain. You know how sometimes you get a muscle twitch or something like that? Sometimes thoughts just misfire. You do not have to listen to everything your brain says. It's not always your friend. And yes, I know that we are one with our brain, but flow with me here. Sometimes it's not doing the right thing for you. So by doing the clucking thing, in essence, what we've done is bypassed all of the other phases. This would be a very short video. You've completely broken the cycle. But here's the issue for Amber. Stepping out of the cycle means that you are suddenly alone with no comforting things, and it's just you and your action, with no excuses, with no comfort zone, with nowhere to go but the action. And then you really have to face who you are and what you really want, because the reality is, when you cut through all of this, sometimes when you ask yourself, what do I want more? Do I want the thing I want to change more, or do I want to be comfortable and stay in my current habits more? Sometimes you'll find that you want to stay in your current habits more, which is fine, but you do that honestly with yourself. You learn who you are in that moment, what you actually want more. And I don't think that Amber can look at that, because I think her ultimate truth is, I don't believe I'm capable of adulting, and I want my fat suit more so that I don't have to stand as an independent adult. And I think ultimately that's what all of this boils down to. Her weight keeps her dependent. It keeps her in a place where she does not have to take responsibility for anything, like barely anything. She gets to live as a perpetual teenager. She gets to always eat whatever she wants. She gets to lie around and look at social media and reaction channels. And she doesn't have to adult. She doesn't have to stand up and go, oh, I need to make a decision here, and I'm actually going to impact things with this decision. So for Amber, the cycle isn't a bug, it's a feature. Okay, so based on the amount of recording I've done, I'm thinking that we're going to be looking at one video per phase because this mother clucker loves to think about things, and I've done a fair bit of research into the psychology behind this stuff too. And I hope you find it interesting, because this is my wheelhouse. This is without a doubt the biggest thing that I had to overcome. And while I think that the reason that we get into these cycles is always different for everyone, although the cause of my cycle and the cause of Amberlynn's cycle are very different, the reason for both of us is actually very similar, and that is just that arrested development, having a fear of getting past the arrested development. I can't speak for her, but I had in my head that it felt like everybody else just had something that I didn't. For some reason, everybody else could do it. Everybody else could mature into an adult and do everything that adults do. And I just seemed to be, there was something wrong with me, and I was just missing it, which was nothing more than an excuse to stay in that state. But for my arrested development nuggets out there, and I know there's a lot of you, because you've very bravely come forward and told me about your situation, but something that I do want to put forward is that although the unknown looks really scary, it's actually far more empowering to develop yourself as an adult, as a capable person, and actually be able to face head on what comes. That is a much more stable and a much safer situation to be in than to be reliant on everybody around you, even though it feels like the opposite while you're in it. And I know that you're probably thinking that. So the next video is going to be phase 2, the dopamine crash. Yes, what happens when you relentlessly mash that button, and what happens to the brain after that. So if you're still here listening with me, thank you so much. I didn't want to have to do 4 videos for this, but I just have too much to say. But I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you again to Salty Crab for allowing me to use her videos as a foundation for this. And finally, I just want to do a massive shout out to all of my cluckers. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. Patreon support and YouTube memberships are available if you would like to join. But thank you again. I so deeply appreciate each and every one of you. And that is all the clucks I have left to give. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey, 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 hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!